morning, folks. Dan Murphy here to do Empire Australia, and with me is James Jennings and Dave Brown. We're here for the Empire's Movie of the Week, and this week we're going to be talking about Anchorman 2. Which we all saw. We went to the premiere last month, which was hilarious. The guys did a version of Afternoon Delight, sort of live in the moment, a cappella. It was quite the thing.
We should mention that we also dressed up. We also had our dodgy porn star mustaches that we've been growing for November.
Yes.
Kind of cheesy 70s suits. We really try to get into the spirit of things.
We look cool.
I think we did.
I'm
not sure if anyone agreed, but I think so.
Yeah, you looked amazing.
Thank you.
He always does.
So, Anchorman 2. It's been, 8 years since the last one? It was a long time between
guests. 8 or 9 years, yeah.
So, eight years since the last one. It's obviously they've been stewing for a while. The demand had grown because the first movie hadn't done as great at box office, most people would think, but it had, filled student bedrooms and stuff with quote after quote after quote.
It's like a fine wine. It develops.
It develops.
With age.
Yeah, that's right. Right. It's just the amount of quotes that you find people talking about, whether it's Rich Mahogany, I'm Ron Burgundy, etc., has turned it into this cult phenomenon. So the guys figured, well, let's make another movie. We pick up the action where Ron and his wife, Veronica Corningstone, are living several years later in New York. They're co-anchors until Ron gets fired because he's generally useless by Harrison Ford, and yet one of the sort of the many times that Harrison Ford takes the mickey out of himself in the gruff persona as Mac Harkin, the station chief, and Veronica keeps her job, which sounds pretty similar. This is in the opening thing. Despondent, Ron can't handle it. He heads back to San Diego and runs the whale show at SeaWorld until a tragedy happens. And then this causes him... plus, he gets an approach from a guy named Freddie Shapp, who is played by Dylan Baker, to be part of a team for a 24-hour news cycle. He then reunites the team. They move to New York, where they become part of this 24-hour news cycle with all the different journalists from around the world. Blah, 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 blah. This is all just furniture for what happens to a story that goes everywhere. The first Anchorman was fabulously absurd. There was a real Python spirit to it, albeit with not quite as literary as Monty Python, the Monty Python Boys, but a Python spirit to the first one, which is totally replicated here. It's absurd. It's chaos.
Anything goes.
Anything goes. At one stage, he goes blind. There's a dinner scene where it treads all over the race line. You don't know whether to laugh or run out.
Gets a little inappropriate.
It gets pretty inappropriate, So, interestingly, what they do with this is presage the sort of 24-hour news cycle and sort of the advent of non-news, where it's, at one stage they're covering a car chase where a criminal's running, driving away, and there's aerial footage, obviously the O.J. Simpson. Meanwhile, across town, Veronica Corningstone is interviewing Yasser Arafat, and they get pulled to cover the car chase. So there's some sly sort of comment about, the American way of life, but realistically, it's all about the idiocy. And if you're going to judge a movie by, a comedy in particular, by how many laughs it gets, this is a laugh farm. It's probably about 20 minutes too long because they just, Adam McKay, the director and co-writer with Will Ferrell, and Ferrell sort of write so much material and they film so many takes that they will probably have yet another sort of alternate version of the movie.
Yeah. That's
which they did before on DVD for the first one.
That's right, and the rumour was that the first cut was 4 hours long. So, a perfect comedy is about 90-95 minutes, and this runs over that to well over 2 hours.
2 hours,
yeah. So it's probably a bit too long, but, if you like to laugh, this is the movie for you. Fellas?
Yeah, look, I definitely think that it was hilarious. It's like, a comedy is all about how many laughs you get. It doesn't really matter if the story's great. If you come out and you've had a good laugh, that's all that matters. With this one, look, I'm a massive fan of the first one, as are a lot of people. Didn't quite live up to the first one for me. I felt that it got bogged down a bit too much in story. A bit of the stuff with Ron's son and...
When it literally jumps a shark.
When he literally jumps the shark. So there's just a little bit too much stuff, like the relationship drama stuff. I know it was played for plot stuff and a few laughs, but for me, it's just nah, don't even try to do a story. The first one was just there is no story. It's just gag after gag after gag. Sure, they can't do the same thing again, but I just felt like that element of the film actually bogged it down a little bit. I still pissed myself laughing in all the right places and thought it was amazing, but for me, it was a little bit of a lesser experience.
Yeah, right. I did not have the same view, Dave.
But I kind of probably fall between both of you. I mean, I still thought it was excellent. Probably not quite as good as the first, but certain aspects I thought were definitely better. Steve Carell as Brick has been given a lot more screen time, and his it's genius. And from what we've seen with interviewing the guys, you know, there's a lot of improvisation there, and it's obvious that Steve Carell was just let loose. And you know, you just got such random stuff happening at the end of scenes. And he's been given a relationship with Kristen Wiig, which I think was fantastic. So I think in that aspect, I think it's great that we've got more Steve Carell. We could have had a bit more Paul Rudd. I think we've talked about in that, you know, he's such a great character, but he's probably not given enough. He almost turns into a secondary character towards the end. And they probably do focus a bit too much on Ron for the last half of the movie when it's not so much the news team. And the films really rock when it's the four of them together.
Look, I'm going to give it 4 stars.
Okay. For me, it's probably 3 stars. But, you know, I still enjoyed it and I'll see it again. But 3 stars.
It's a comedy. I laugh a lot. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. It's also one of those great comedies where you don't see all the great gags in the trailer. There's lots more to see after you've seen the trailer. So
in fact, half the trailer isn't even in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a great film, so definitely see it.
Really good fun. So it's 4 stars for us. Anyway, we've gone over time. That's enough for us for this week. From myself, Dave and JJ, have a great day.